think we should go ahead and get started. So my name is Ann Ayers. I have the honor of being the Dean of the Colorado Women's College, one of the units at the University of Denver. And in this context, I have not just the honor, but also just the fun of being associated with the Community Plus Values Initiative and being the co-lead of that with our Chancellor, Jeremy Hafner. And we have a steering committee of about 30 different people from across campus, and we've engaged with, at this point, over several thousand of you over the course of the last year, and just hoping to grow that and to give you opportunities to connect more with the University of Denver, to connect more with each other, to teach us at the university about how we create a better experience for all of you, for belonging here and making this really your community and home. So this is one of those efforts. I am so excited. I am going to be, the way this will work is I'm going to hand it over to Amanda Whitboard, who is going to facilitate this conversation among a lot of your and our student leaders. And so she's going to facilitate, and then at about 20 minutes till, I think she'll also be taking questions that you're able to post into the Q&A or into the chat link. So please, please be doing that. And then also definitely at the end, we will post the email for Community Plus Values, and we would love for you to get connected to that. But right now I'm going to introduce you to our awesome panelists. So Amanda Whitboard, if you want to just kind of raise your hand, we'll put faces with names here. Luke, who's here for club sports. Roman, who is an undergraduate representative in student government. Let's see, who else do we have? Oh, Hannah, you were able to join us. Hi, it's nice to meet you. Laurel is here as well, a first-year master's student in higher ed. Let's see, and Matt Walter. Matt has been great. He's been part of the C+V initiative, and I just really enjoy getting the opportunity to work with you and get your perspective on things. Did I miss anybody? Unmute yourself and reveal yourself if I did. I'm happy to go through this funny list on the side of my screen. Okay, so I'm gonna just start by asking you each one question, grounded in the fact that I have just been so proud of working at the University of Denver. And I don't say that from a perspective of, well, I definitely am somebody who sees the places where we need to improve. But when you go through something like what we're going through at this university, and you see and I witness my colleagues and faculty members and students pulling together and working really hard, and I get to be on alumni calls where alumni are just wanting to know how they can help our students. It's amazing, and to witness the hard work that's going on is amazing. So I wanted to start and just ask all of you if you would just share with all of us your title, kind of how you're connected to the university. Many of you have multiple ways that you're connected. So tell us that, and then tell us what you've done in the last 3 or 4 weeks that you're really most proud of. I think sometimes it feels good to toot our own horns, and now would be a great time, I think, to do that, to inspire other people to do well too. So do you want to start? I'll just call on you because that'll be probably a little bit easier. But Amanda, do you feel like you want to jump in?
I was just going to ask if you want me to go first or last.
Yeah.
Amanda Whitboard, again, pronouns she, her, hers. Like I said, I'm a second-year master's student in the higher education program. I also have a few different roles on campus because I love to do everything. So I'm the Global Res Program Coordinator. I also am the DU Dialogues Program Coordinator, one of 2 folks in that role. And then I also work for CECL as a Community Engaged Fellow, so doing research among community members and partners, and Dr. Laura Sponsler as well. I'm also a human on my free time. And something that I've been proud of in the last few weeks.
Something you've done, something you've accomplished.
Something I've accomplished. Gotcha. I think kind of setting up my physical space to be what I need during this time. I am an anti-homebody. My partner is trying to always get me to be more of that. I'm not even here on my own free time. So to me, it was really important that I create a space that says both work and love and creativity. So I've been working on that, and I made some homemade candles before. So kind of having those around, a big pile of books also. And I think in that is kind of like figuring out what is some of the extra stuff that I want to be sending to people right now. So there's a bunch of like notes I've been waiting to send to people. So I'm doing a lot of like snail mail as
Yeah,
a way to connect.
I love all of that. Matt, what about you?
Yeah, so Matt Walter, undergraduate student government president. I think one of the biggest things that I've been proud of working on for the last 2 weeks now, 3 weeks now, has been a grade relief package for our students. And I can't really release too many details because there's still details being hammered out, but it's definitely in the works and it should be announced, I would assume this week or early next week, about how we're going to adapt the academic side to be a little more responsive to the stress and difference of this moment. And it's been a lot of conversations with different students, different faculty, and the provost's office and the chancellor about what feasibly we can do and what would actually help the most people. So it's been really heartening to see everyone care so much.
That's really cool. I think one of my sons was challenged by a teacher to find anybody right now who hasn't done something to help someone else. And we couldn't think of anybody. And so I think, in your role, you provide a different kind of help, but thank you for doing it. It's important. Luke, what about you?
I'm a senior Club Sports Executive Council president. So I basically just get to represent all the fun activities on campus, the games. Personally, the thing I'm most proud of, I built some beautiful cornhole boards over the last few weeks in my free time. That's been great. But in this role, obviously we've had the majority of our athletes, their seasons got cut short or completely eliminated. So trying to work with the Joint Council with Matt and Hannah, as well as those other people, and then kind of my boss, to find ways to continue to push, make our athletes, give our student athletes as many resources as we can and support them during this. I mean, just like everyone else during this really difficult time. But I mean, especially as an athlete, when your season gets cut short like this, which is, kind of unprecedented, it's tough for everyone. And so trying to help out as much as you can during this time is a thing that I'm just trying to do every day.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Roman?
Roman. I'm the chair for International License Committee at Undergraduate Student Government, and I also hold like different positions as like I'm the board, one of the board member for International Student Organization. And yeah, like within like past few weeks, something I'm really proud of is probably like getting used to the Zoom online classes and stuff, I guess, because I never had taken online classes in my life, and just like getting into that, it's like a big change, and I'm getting used to it finally. Yeah, and so like recently, it was last week. So personally, I had a meeting with the ISSS about like how to like reach out to the international students like there are like on campus and just like look after them and basically brainstorming the ideas so it can be like a resource for them as well.
I'm so glad you all are in charge. Laurel?
Yeah, hi, I'm Laurel Pilar. I'm a first year in higher education program. I'm a master's student. I'm also a graduate assistant in the Office of Student Engagement, and my specific focus is graduate student activities. And I think it's been really interesting over the last few weeks. Since January, actually, I haven't had a direct manager, so I've been kind of navigating by my own anyways. But then to navigate how to do that in a completely different format was really interesting. I think two of the things I'm really proud of, I have a really big Instagram sort of following and engagement platform, and sort of from just a question I posed, I think over spring break, I realized a lot of our graduate students are reading right now, and like for fun, not for our classes. So I spearheaded a graduate student book club, which is going to be coming. We just got 60 participants, which is really large for our office, actually. And then we also had Graduate Student Appreciation Week this week, which is really unfortunate. But I'm kind of doing an online version. Obviously, it's not the same, but I'm really happy and kind of proud of myself that I was able to do still something to appreciate and create a little bit of a community in our graduate student body.
What book are you reading?
So that's what I'm navigating. I wasn't totally expecting 60 participants, so I think I'm gonna try to separate into like subgroups and pick multiple books for people to kind of choose and then navigate it from there.
Right. Well, I hope that you'll share with the C+B team your book list so that we can share it with the rest of the community. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I'd love
Hannah?
Yeah, my name is Hannah. I'm a senior, she, her, hers, and I'm the editor-in-chief of the student newspaper on campus. I also work under 2 different professors in the psychology department as a research assistant, looking into different things like trauma as well as inclusive excellence on campus. The thing I'm most proud of personally is that I've avoided binging Netflix so far, but that's probably going to change soon. But in terms of the Clarion, we've been producing 2 different series. One is more of a long form news series in which we investigate the impacts that COVID-19 has had on various aspects of student life. So we've released 2 articles so far, one about how it's impacted arts students, so students who are theater, music, jazz, those majors, and then the most recent one was following STEM majors. We're working on articles featuring international students' voices, featuring what happened to students who had to like give up their leases and the impacts on housing and various aspects like that. So it's been very rewarding offering ourselves as like a platform for students just to be heard through, and to highlight their voices and give them space to talk about the impacts of COVID-19.
That's really neat. So I'm going to hand it over. I think I got everybody. I'm going to hand it over to Amanda. I just, as I say goodbye, I mean, I'll sit and listen for most of this, but I just want to express my gratitude. I think that you being the propellers behind the student community is enormous and helpful. And I think we as administrators, we can't do it alone. You have a different kind of a voice in this process, and it's remarkably important that we hear from you, but that you hear from each other. So whatever we can do as a university, whatever I can do as a leader in the university, whatever C+B can do for you all, please ask and let us know, because it's going to be even harder than normal for us to hear that, just kind of being a little bit more distant than we're used to. So, all right, be well, everybody, and enjoy the conversation.
Cool, thank you, Anne. So again, Amanda, gonna help facilitate this conversation just because we don't have tons of time and we wanna make sure that everyone feels heard. So for each question, to kind of get to the logistics, if just 2 or 3 people could answer, and that way we're really rotating around kind of that leadership of sharing. And then I have a long list of questions that we're given as an option. So if people feel like a question they want to be heard at the end, just post those as we go in the last 15 or so minutes. We'll talk through those as well. And then I personally just want to add that to recognize that there are many ways to deal with change and crisis and the unknown, and that different types of leadership really show up in that, and just to really give ourselves self-grace, and then to think about others' responses in a very caring way, knowing that we all deal with this very differently, and so do our communities. So with that being said, let's just pop into kind of a how are you doing? As well, if you want to share that, it seems like some people are connected in very different ways. So how are you socializing with people? How have you reached out to your community, and kind of how does that wrap into how you're doing right now? And if people just want to like physically raise their hand and then unmute themselves, so we can kind of get that like verbal and visual going.
I'm okay. I ended up going home rather unexpectedly to be with my family. And in my free time, I've been mostly trying to get outside, walk, just hang out with my family because I don't see them as often as I would like to. I would have to say I'm really proud of the way that Clarion's responded. We now host Zoom meetings every Monday night where we have the room open for around 3 hours, so writers and editors can just pop in and chat, and it's a really nice atmosphere where we can all check in on each other and make sure that we're all feeling supported in the ways that we would like to feel supported. I've seen a lot of people use Zoom, which is really heartening. I know it's a bit of a meme now, but it's really heartening to see like friends staying connected with each other through Zoom or watching movies through Zoom. So I have to say that's been really great to see.
Yeah, so I'm Roman. Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm doing pretty well now. Like, cause it's been 2 or 3 weeks already. I'm still on campus, and all of my friends like they moved out, so kind of like felt alone before, but just getting used to the classes and stuff. So as the like school started, basically there were like a lot of stuff that I have to do. So I didn't have like that much free time as I had in spring break. So kind of like getting there, and at my free time, I've been just like watching a lot of movies and series that I was like planning to watch like before when I had free time. Now I finally, I guess, I have free time. Yeah, and like socializing with others is just like for me, since like there is no one on campus and I can barely go outside. It's just like been a Instagram or like a Facebook, or like just like to connect with my family and friends around, just like checking in like how they're doing and everything, I guess. So yeah, and like some of the cool ways I have seen like people interact is just like in like Instagram, basically. Like most of the music artists, they're like doing the online concerts and stuff. Like, and some of my favorite artists have done that, and I'm like, wow, like that is so cool. Just like it's like really nice to see like everyone coming together and just like kind of like helping each other out. And yeah, it's been a pretty fun time, I guess.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add to that is I'm a big FaceTime guy, and I was before all of this started, much to my friend's chagrin. And now I came out on top. So we see who was right about FaceTime. And when I bug them, people actually pick up now, which is exciting.
Thank you, Matt. I actually agree with that. I'm a big phone calling kind of person, FaceTime as well, but like I try and be intentional, actually call someone, because texting can feel kind of too easy in a way. And now people answer, and now they're calling me, and I'm now a little bit backed off. So thank you for sharing that. And then with Roman, you kind of were already touching on this twice now with like academics and what that's meant. So kind of moving along and thinking of other parts of our life, what has this transition been like for each of you to online learning? And how have you managed it? Are there any new tools you're picking up, any resources that have felt really relevant? Because there's a lot of information out there. So where are you at with online learning?
I'll jump in first, I think, on this because I actually had the privilege of facilitating questions for one of the other seminars last week around adapting to online learning. And I think I learned more in that 1 hour about like pedagogy than I have in my entire life. And it was a very meaningful conversation and certainly helped me frame my mind for how to approach this quarter. I think the biggest thing for online learning for me is Zoom can be incredibly boring after a while, and I push for asynchronous instead, but then asynchronous can get really confusing because I have classes that say you need the same reading assignment due every week at this time. Then I have classes that are like, have this one reading assignment due on Monday, but next week it's due on Tuesday, and the week after that you're in a different group and it's due on Wednesday, and it gets all confusing. So scheduling has become my best friend for everything, not just, I literally have a Zoom class at this time, but every single assignment I've been scheduling in just so I can keep track of how the new digital environment works.
Personally, I think for me, the transition has been fairly smooth so far. All my classes are synchronous, so we have to be live in person. So that wasn't a big change in that regard. I will say the biggest the value add for me would be having a second monitor to really increase efficiency and just screen real estate, to be able to have, your Zoom call on one. And then if you need to be doing Google searches on terms you're confused about, if you're me, or the slideshow or notes that you're taking, that's been huge for me. And then just like exactly like Matt said, being diligent about scheduling your assignments and stuff. I know on my phone, my calendar app is just filled with a maze of assignments and meetings. And I mean, if I were to lose my phone, obviously all of us would be a mess, but especially that's my calendar. And so I've been using that way more than I ever have. And it's been a huge help.
I think as well for me, kind of twofold. One, I've been struggling, but also trying to be intentional about making meaning of my work. Because right now, since so many things are happening, I'm like, why is this thing I'm talking about relevant? Like, what does this matter right now when I have family in New York City, you know, where it's really dangerous right now? So I think that's been probably my biggest struggle of online classes, is just like the purpose and like meaning behind what I'm learning and how it's going to contribute to my future. But I think secondly as well, kind of on top of being diligent about planning and scheduling and stuff, I live in a 1-bedroom apartment by myself, so I can't really get away from both my work, classroom, and relaxation space. So being super intentional about figuring out when and where, whether that's on my couch, this desk, my bar stools, my balcony, to do specific assignments, because I feel like the space has gotten smaller as I've been in it, even though I love it so much. So I think something that's really been helping me, I mean, it's only week 2, but Saturdays, I'm going to try not to do anything in terms of the University of Denver, whether that's school or work. Like I said, only week 2, so who knows, but just kind of giving myself really intentional time to enjoy my space, because then I realize that gives me more motivation to do things different days of the week.
Thank you for adding that, Laurel. No one really touched on it. I'm just curious because there's, again, like so much stuff out there. Is there any specific resources either on campus or in general you have found that have been helpful for yourself and might be helpful for others as well?
Yeah, I want to add on that, because like there used to be like a SEC, Science and Engineering Center, at the back of the like AAC. Now like they have like completely moved it online, so like there are tutors for like all these science classes and computer sciences basically. So you like you can just look up the DU portfolio SEC, and there is a link in there, and when you click in, you like get the whole like Zoom conference app, like, and you can like talk to the tutor. It's just like a kind of like version of that, and it's pretty helpful.
Yeah, I think I would just re-highlight that webinar from last week where we had 2 professionals from our university college program who do online teaching pretty frequently. And they shared a lot of tips and tricks on just how to set up your space, how to stay focused, how to prepare yourself mentally in a lot of ways for these things. And that was a very worthwhile watch, I would say.
Okay, thank you both for sharing that. So thinking about how you all have roles in student engagement, one of the first questions I wanted to ask, and then we can go into like specifics, is what does community building look like right now? Because when I think of being engaged in anything, a lot of us, it's because we're connected. To Laurel's point, maybe is having some purpose and some like relevance to our own communities. And so I think you kind of have to start with like community building in a way again before you can go into like what we're actually doing. So again, just repeat the question, what does community building look like for you and your communities now?
I'll go ahead and start. On the club sports side and the athletics and recreation side, I think we're very well positioned to continue community building. I think that's Matt and I have talked about kind of on the club sports and the recreation side. That's what I'm most proud about is the team environment and the team mentality that we have going on. And I mean, with all this going on, I've seen the individual teams really latch on to each other and continue to be in contact and have the group Zoom calls to stay connected. And then on the athletics and on the more university-wide side, we've rolled out some resources, some obviously virtual resources to connect students, whether it be through virtual exercise programs. We're going to have kind of like an intramural esports league. And so and as well on athletics and recreation side, as well as the majority of campus, obviously, we're doing our absolute best to use the virtual space to bring the community together as much as we possibly can. And I think that that the sports world makes that real makes it very easy for us, at least.
I think from the student engagement office specifically, we were really anxious and excited to immediately figure out what programs we can put online and what's available and what are other professionals doing, et cetera. And we really from our perspective, had to take a step back from that and realize this is a lot at once. Our students may not even be in the mind space to create community or friends right now because they're trying to figure out themselves in their own world. So I think we've been trying to be really intentional about doing sort of passive programming, whether that's an Instagram question or, you know, a movie night or like sharing out a favorite song or new song of the week. Just things that people can connect with, but not put a lot of like mental energy into at the moment. And I foresee that like shifting maybe as we get kind of used to this new normal. But I think we've been intentional right now about finding out where students are at and trying to meet them there and not overwhelm everyone because we're just going to not see any engagement if that's the case.
To go off of what Laurel said, what I've been seeing with the Clarion and the editors within the Clarion is leading with grace and providing a space for students to both provide their voices in an impact series, but also giving them a time to just talk to us and rant or chat about what they feel like is happening, and being really understanding with deadlines and just giving them the grace to write articles when they want to, but not when they need, like when they have to necessarily, and just keeping things open for them so that they feel we're still there for them, but they have the space to work it into their schedules in their lives.
Okay, if people, I'll go to the next question, but I feel like community building is kind of a piece of all of this. So if you have another part of a question you want to loop this back in, feel free. This is kind of supposed to be what you all want to talk about. So I know it's only week 2, but we are still on the quarter system. So thinking like, what does student involvement look like right now? I heard a few of the things that the offices are doing. Are you defining it for your groups? Are you working with other groups? Like, what do you all see as student involvement for spring 2020?
Yeah, I think some of the things that have been coming up in conversation, so I've had a couple of calls with DUPB's co-presidents at this point, obviously with Luke and the recreation team and Hannah's team, but it's really, I think, student engagement, this is an anomaly of a quarter. And I went into this quarter, I think a lot of us went into this quarter taking a very measured approach, a little hesitant, saying, okay, well, it's business as normal. It's just business that's digital. And I think the reality is settling hard on me that it's not business as normal, but digital. This is very abnormal. Honestly, I haven't entirely processed this quarter, and I'm doing what I do best, which is double down on work and repress any problems. And so I've kind of decided that I'm going to repress this entire quarter, and I suspect that many other students probably feel the same way. If this is going to be an anomaly, a blip on their academic trajectory, and it might not, the fun might not look the same. And honestly, I think Laurel had a great point that people might not be in the mind space for fun right now at all. That I think this might, for many people, be an anomaly. So for those of us who are, you know, at that mental capacity, at that comfort level to be involved, I think that it will look a lot like digital Netflix parties that DUPB is hosting, and, you know, maybe a live stream Jackbox game, you know, things like that, that can be easily seen and done with multiple people. But I think a lot of it's going to be on small individual friend cohorts. It's not going to be as much these big groups putting on things. It's not going to be as much clubs. It's going to be more me and my 5 or 6 friends who happen to be free at this time have all decided that we're going to do a weekly crossword puzzle or something like that together. But I would say it's going to vary a lot.
Before anyone else answers, I just want to say thank you, Matt, for sharing that with us, because I think sometimes it can be hard to name that we haven't processed something yet. And so we may be doing, that doesn't mean we have worked through what that means. And I also want to thank you because you brought up, a few of you did, mental space, and maybe some work around like privilege of which students have that extra physical space and mental space to be doing something like involvement. And I would just add to maybe we could all reconsider it being student community, if we need to reframe that opposed to student involvement, because I'd say even during these times, most people still need community, if not involvement or engagement. So thank you for that pivot, and I just wanted to add that in.
To go off of what Matt said, and what you said about the privilege to have the space, I think a lot of involvement this year is going to be individual friend networking, and checking it up on your groups and making sure everyone's okay, like individual groups watching Netflix together, just having FaceTime dates or like Zoom dates, and just spending that time. But I do think a lot of what I've heard from our interviews is this has really reframed how a lot of students are viewing what their privilege looks like within the university, and their ability, what the university has given them, and what this looks like for different folks. So it's really opening up a lot of discourse within friend groups of how can we care for other people around us? How can we check in on our friends without making, they're not feeling overwhelmed by the same question 20 times over. So I think it's really opening up a great discourse of being in touch with each other and leaning in on each other.
I think I have something tangentially that I would also add. I think Americans really struggle with how to support each other a lot of the time. I think a lot of the time it's a very easy, I'll bake a lasagna and I'll take it over. It's something that's small. I don't want to say facetious and downplay it, but it's something that is not necessarily deeply emotional. And it's not a deeply emotional exercise in supporting each other. And I think this is really, in this case, where the best thing you can do for other people to support them is not talk like face to face, physically with them in the same space. I think it's really making people reassess how they do engage with each other around support, and kind of shifting that more from, oh, well, I'll send them a lasagna and a card, to let's have a more meaningful conversation, just because there is that innate desire to have those emotional bonds, I think. And it's showing up now more than ever that perhaps the way that we've supported each other historically isn't going to work in this environment.
Thank you for adding that, Matt. I also wonder, and I don't want to bring it to a surface level as much as like think this could be a helpful thing, and thinking about the generations that I believe that most of us on this call are, and how that works for other generations as well, and thinking about social media and other online tools to check in and engage. So we've heard Zoom meetings, right, or FaceTime, any kind of video, and a few people touched on like an Instagram. But are there other ways that you all have seen your communities doing this work, or you yourself have engaged? I also mentioned, it's not in the technology, but I'm writing like a stack of different like letters. And I'm also like a reuse kind of person. So I have old like inspirational notes that other people have given me, and I'm kind of like re-gifting them in the letters. Do other people have tools like that they've started to use, or I shouldn't say tools, something meaningful to them?
Yeah, and I don't know if it's so much as meaningful, but I've always been a big Facebook proponent. And I think that with my work, and I'm thinking of my work specifically around the grade relief package that's in the works, but I've always used Facebook as a way to connect with other people on ideas in a meaningful way. And I like to continually share updates on the work that I'm doing, because it provides some level of comfort. And the university can send 50 million emails about coronavirus, every day, and people still might not read them, because the truth is that it's overwhelming. It can be a lot. But I think I've really been able to use Facebook with digestible bite-sized chunks that people can read, have a quick reaction to, share that quick reaction, and build off of each other's, either shared suffering or shared optimism in different ways, and move ideas around.
I think sorry, Luke. I think one of the tools I've been trying to use, not necessarily anything different than, like calling my grandma who doesn't have technology at all. But I think in whatever space I am in, whether that's Zoom or Jackbox games or Facebook or whatever, me and my friends have been, and even a lot of us in the Office of Student Engagement have been really intentional about when we are setting aside time to have lunch together, or like a happy hour or something, just like not talking about the elephant in the room, which is weird because it feels like there's so much happening, but so little happening at the same time. But really trying to be intentional about just not saying anything about it, which is really hard. And I feel like a lot of us do slip up because it's so ingrained in what we're doing right now. But really trying to just have conversations about literally anything else, because there's so many other things as well. So I feel like whatever space I've been in, that's been really nice to just kind of digest and take a moment to not think about it.
Yeah, I think, Laurel, I think you made a great point there. I would say, I think of all the times for the coronavirus to be happening, I think that in today's world, it actually worked out kind of slick for us to be able to have conversations like this whenever we want to, just to be able to set up a Zoom call, a FaceTime, whatever it may be. It did work out pretty well. If it were to have happened, it's not so bad that it happened today. And I mean, thankfully there's so many different platforms and ways for people to talk to one another or to engage with one another, whether that be obviously through Zoom or through FaceTime, Facebook, Netflix parties. That's way above my pay grade, but there are so many different ways for people to be involved. And like Laurel said, just having a space to be with your friends, to be able to do something that's semi-normal, whether that be just doing your homework assignment, working on a group project, or watching a movie, or playing a video game or something like that. There are so many different ways for you to be still connected with your friends and community, and just to be able to, like Laurel said, to converse outside of the coronavirus bubble. It's just a really good mental break from everything that's going on, I think.
Yeah, kind of like what Luke said, basically. There is like definitely plenty of like platforms that we have now, because like personally, like physically I'm alone, but like I have those platforms like to stay connected with my family, my friends, and everyone. Like even I'm here like stuck in Denver, I can like reach out to my family anytime and make sure like they're fine. So like it kind of like makes me like look after them all the time and make sure like they're like doing fine and doing well, so I can hear like do like mentally fine as well. So it's just like definitely like those platforms are making life much easier. Like I can't imagine like just like being stuck here without all my technology or anything. Like it would be miserable.
Thank you, Roman, Luke, Laurel, Matt, Hannah, everyone. I think it's interesting too, because that "how are you" question almost feels too complicated or too much, or the same conversations. I have lived all over the country, and so I've always had long distance friendships, and so I've played a lot. I call it the 20 questions game, but it's just like asking people those really random questions you think of, like what could you never live without in a workspace, and those, because you find out so deeply about people when you ask those, and you find people in your group will have such different answers, and it kind of gets the conversation to like, who are you as a person in general, not just who are you right now, even though those are of course linked. So thinking about support systems and about tons of emails and people probably asking everyone this in different ways, I'm still going to ask, how can DU support students and student groups during this time? And maybe even just people who are listening, it'd be helpful to hear, or for people to talk through together.
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind, again, is on the academic side of house, providing relief for our students. And I know that faculty have been getting also a million emails per day about what they should or should not do. And so I think it's very obvious that we're all navigating through this together, but and that's difficult, because it becomes difficult when this is just as new to us as it is to most of our authority figures. And I think Anne brought up an interesting point earlier, where there's a generational gap in some ways, where we grew up with technology from, being toddlers. I had a leapfrog that I was already poking at screens. And I think that in some ways, our students are better adept at adapting to this technology change and the shift in some ways where our authority figures are not. And so it becomes a great point, in my opinion, of how we can mutually support each other and how we should be mutually supporting each other every day. But it's definitely, besides some grade relief measures and some support and guidance from the Office of Student Engagement on how to maybe digital program, or what are your platform choices? What, like a list of all the platforms you could use to just talk to your friends. I don't really know, honestly, what our unknowns are right now. I think there's a lot of unknowns, and we'll run into them as we run into them, but I'm not certain DU or myself or any student know exactly how best they can support us in this moment.
I think in general, to kind of summarize, I think maybe what Matt's saying there is, I think flexibility is the biggest support system that we can have and that we can ask for, both students to faculty and faculty to students. Just being flexible. I mean, like Matt said, this is new for everyone, and some of us are suited to be kind of on your own, and some of us very much are not. And so for all of us to be able to be flexible, to be able to work with each other, to be able to understand that, yeah, even though all this is going on, we each have our personal lives, our personal learning styles, things going on, behind the camera now. I just think that a university-wide kind of flexible mentality is I think the key to getting through this quarter.
And then this is more on the superficial financial side, which I know many students are struggling with now because, work, study, jobs in general disappearing. In our meetings with the Joint Council, we've talked a lot about how can we promote the Student Assistance Fund and make sure that students know that this is available to them, that if they're in need of support there, that they can reach out. And I think this is something that we all have to continue pushing. If you hear of a student that's struggling, reaching out and offering them at least the application or the link to that application, and making them know that it's something that they can access and it's there for them in that situation.
Just want to insert something real quick before you can then go, Roman, of Hannah. I think Hannah and Luke were talking about very different things. One, finance, and I almost heard a little bit of mental health kind of going on in that conversation that you were saying, Luke. But I would say that nothing is unimportant right now. Behind the camera makes me think of, you don't know what's going on behind someone's smile or in their daily life. And finance is a really big one, and so is connecting the community and not being a homebody. So just want to emphasize again that we are all handling this so differently, and it is unparamounteded. And so all of these things matter. And I want you to know that. Roman?
Yeah. So what I kind of was thinking basically is things are changing rapidly from day to day. So each person's situation might not be similar to the other person. So we have a diverse conditions of students going on here. Some people are dealing with some of the financial stuff, some people with the mental breakdown and stuff. So it's kind of DU should be and DU is doing this, they should be listening to the reaching out to diverse student groups and just listening to them, and kind of working with faculty and students, and just seeing how much flexible they can be, and just what kind of resources they can bring up. And what I kind of was also thinking was just DU should be more be reaching out to students and just asking how can we help you, and just directing them to the resources they have. I mean, I've been getting emails of here are the resources from HCC, and if you have any kind of a breakdown, you can reach out to them, talk with the counselor, and now it's letting them know you have a resources. That is a very good action they have been doing, they have been taking. So, and I think it should be a more they should be pushing this more forward and continue to keep on doing this, I guess.
Thanks, Roman. So we have about 12 minutes left. I am only seeing one question in the chat, so I'm gonna pose that one. And if people are still thinking and want to just type them, please feel free to do that. And I have backup questions in case we need time, so we'll be good on that. But I want to make sure everyone feels heard and their questions are part of this. So the one I do have is, looking into the future with little to no physical gathering until fall quarter, what do you think will be the priorities for involvement, engagement, and community building from your perspective as student leaders? Is there anything innovative your professors, this may be a separate question. Go with that one first, sorry.
I think a lot of, also just to kind of backtrack, I want to thank the other panelists because I realized from your answers, I haven't been thinking from a student perspective what I need. I've been really wearing my staff hat for a little bit. So thank you for kind of bringing that to my attention. But kind of to answer Dong's question, I know a lot of, and I don't know if Matt can echo this, but a lot of the stuff coming from CLE has been to plan now for the fall. So I think that's been a lot of our priority, is to think about like, oh, do you need XYZ, I don't want to say like merchandise, but like item that you need to purchase for fall, or like what plans are you going to have for fall, or like what energy can we put into the future? And I think that's been a big priority, just because it's so unknown of like what students want and are looking for right now. But we know in the fall they're going to be, I don't want to say normal, because I don't really know what that term means anymore, but kind of back to the more traditional student engagement experience. So I think a lot of the priority has been kind of focusing on to when we get back, to also kind of maybe not overwhelm ourselves. I think thinking of how to program in this whole new environment right now is really scary for a lot of people who are doing it, student leaders or staff. So kind of give ourselves time to think through something and know that when that time comes in August, September, whatever, that we'll be able to really do that to the best of our ability.
Yeah, I really see an emphasis on physically being together coming back. I'm also curious, though, to see how this lasts, how this drags on past this exact moment. I think we're going to be open to a whole host of new digital realities going forward. Even though we might have a new desire and a refreshed desire to be in a space physically with each other, I think this will ultimately expand the range of our programming. And we will continue to see Netflix parties, maybe. We will continue to see some of these things popping up as we go forward in the fall. But I do see an emphasis on people wanting to get together. I think of the joke on Zoom memes for self-quarantines on Facebook. If you're not on that group, highly recommend. There's some quality content on there. It's very funny. But I think of the joke where it's like, I will never again tell you I'm busy or have homework or that I'm whatever if you ask me to go do something. Like, I will be at the party 2 hours early to help you set up. There's a desire to get out there and be with people again that I think we'll see a very strong resurgence of in the fall.
Kind of back up at like what Matt said as well. I think this is also really giving us a great opportunity to engage with students we haven't engaged with before. I know graduate students have like a huge online population, and a lot of them have been super grateful to see a lot of these online sort of events. So I think moving forward, there is going to be a higher emphasis on continuing this sort of program to reach those students who aren't on campus or can't get to campus or something along those lines. So kind of a little bit of a positive, I think, to come out of this experience.
Luke, I think I saw you as well, right? Okay.
Yeah. I just wanted to emphasize what Laurel and Matt both said. And especially, I think, in our joint cabinet meetings, Matt and Hannah, we're already looking forward and planning on the fall and looking forward to how do we get back to some sense of normalcy when we get people back on campus. And I think university-wide and nationwide, globally even, a lot of us are looking forward to what is it going to look like when we're done with this, and having, giving people something to look forward to. Like Matt said, being at the party 2 hours early when we're finally let out of self-quarantine. So I guess for me, I see to answer your question, Dong, I have two different answers. The first, the immediate priority is finding ways that are convenient and practical for students and faculty to engage and to remain connected. And then as a longer term priority, how can we get back to a sense of normalcy when we get the people back on campus? And how can we integrate these new tools that we're discovering by fire? How can we integrate these to get more students and more faculty roped into the DU community? I think that those are the two priorities from my perspective moving forward.
Thank you, Luke. So I have two additional questions. I'm gonna try and tie them together so people can kind of answer at their to what they want. One question is both are about this online transition. One is for academics. Is there anything innovative your professors are doing to make that process more engaging? I personally heard a few of you touch on that Zoom can be kind of boring or become a little of the same, little rote. And then someone else asked in the same form of like, there's tons of emails out there, and DU's trying to balance that as like the official communication, but also recognizing that students have social media, and that what are like other effective ways to reaching out to students to give them information and to be engaged without overwhelming people. I'll type those as well.
I want to take that academic like apart, because like I have seen most of my like professors that are being like super flexible with the courses and stuff. Like they're recording the live lecture and just like putting in the Zoom, so it's just like the people in the different time zone can like come and basically can watch the video and like attend the lecture without like having that time difference at all. And what I'm seeing is also like they are like recording the videos of themselves, like doing some kind of like questions or like doing some kind of lecture and like short clip and just uploading in the Zoom. So like it's easier for students to like just like go and to the particular section and just like see what's up there. And most of my professors till now, they're being super like flexible, and they have like a lot of office hours and stuff. You can just like basically FaceTime them. You don't even have to like send out an email or anything. So it's just like a specific time, and you just like FaceTime them, you talk to them, answer the questions and stuff. I feel like it's like very like easier for me, like especially like to reach out to them just like by those kind of like mediums. And it's not like overwhelming. Just like I have to like write down the email all the time, like every day, and just like stay connected with them or ask questions. So like the professors, they are doing like a good job.
So I guess I'll try and answer both these questions at once. I think, like I said at the beginning, all of my classes at least are synchronous, and the thing I'm noticing more so now than ever is the professors are asking so many more questions to try and generate some discussion in the Zoom meeting itself to keep students from falling asleep. And so I guess innovation from the professors, from the teaching side, is they are doing a lot more question asking to, like I said, generate some of that discussion, and to get students involved with the class and then with each other in the classroom. And then to address the second question on balancing the overwhelming students with emails versus effectively communicating. I personally don't think that social media should be used as a reliable source of communication for the university. I mean, I use it. I look at all the communication we get on the social media, but like the question asks, not everyone uses it or uses it regularly. So that shouldn't be seen as an official means of communication, or even semi-official, in my opinion. But I think that there's a fine line between the amount of emails we get, and I just think that there has to be a better way for the university to dispense information. And in my opinion, I'd love to see essentially a Canvas container on our Canvas websites, where all of us have like a little, almost like a class that's called DU resources or something like that, or where it contains all of the updates, all of the resources, links, for students to be able to use, So that way we're not getting an email every single day with a slight update or an additional resource. I personally would like to see just on the Canvas website, just a container that has, okay, here are all of your links to the resources that we think you might need or want. And then, here's what we're doing as a university. Here are the updates for you as well. So that way you just go into the container, add, quick glance, and you have all of your resources there.
Thank you, Luke. Before you speak, Laurel, just touching on, hopefully that comment, Luke, will go to people and thinking of how to organize. And sounds like you mean outside of COVID, but knowing that there is one DU kind of COVID website or coronavirus. And I think in general, that could be a resource that's kind of used throughout the university for support. And then Laurel, you can share first, but as we only have a few more minutes, if anyone else wants to just share about anything, please do so after Laurel speaks.
I'll be quick to kind of answer both questions. The first question, I think I only have one professor for both my classes, but she's been really intentional about asking us about assignments and if they seem fair, if they seem relevant, and working with us to see what we're capable of right now. So I've really appreciated that sort of approach, which may be a little bit easier for some classes rather than others. But I think it's been really good to know that we can talk to her about that sort of thing. And then I think quickly too, I think right now would also be a really good time for offices, students, whomever, to kind of utilize what initiatives are already happening. So I know I've seen a lot of offices kind of email blasting, like webinar today, like this tomorrow, this next week. Whereas instead of doing that 4 times a week, because sometimes I just really just skip through those emails, you utilize the newsletter, the grad newsletter, or something along those lines. So it's still the same information going out in a timely fashion, but not in 8 different emails rather than, instead of 1, which could then create the other issue, which is 1 long email that students may not read. But I think there definitely needs to be a fine balance between kind of what's already offered and what is being created as well.
Thank you, Laurel.
Yeah, and I think
okay, you go, Matt.
I'm sorry. I think the last thing I would add on the communication thing is there's lessons to be learned from social media that can make emails more attractive. That's why I like social media so much. Is on Facebook, I can make a bite-sized paragraph and encompass several things, and people will read it and respond to it. But I think a lot of what we've been seeing from the university in regards to getting ideas or information out there has been a lot of fluffy rah-rah language. And I'm a sucker for some fluffy rah-rah language, but at the same time, I don't want to read 4 pages of it every day. And if it's an update, it's an update, like bullet point it. This is, students are busy, they're tired, they're whatever. And we struggle with this even when we're not in COVID-19 pandemic mode. So I think that using the lessons of how to format tweets, 240 characters, we have a generation raised with the attention span of understanding an Instagram post, a Twitter post, and a Facebook post. And email hits more people, but we also have to make sure that the people are engaged with it in a way that they've been primed to since birth at this point.
Thank you, Matthew. I'm hearing kind of a know your audience and speak to your audience kind of message. Any final thoughts that people really want to get out there? Okay, I just want to comment that in the chat, there's been some supportive kind of comments from people that are listening. So before we exit out of Zoom, if people kind of want to scroll up and see that, or if anyone else wants to post things there, I'm going to post one more article too that an educator was really speaking to not trying to do too much and be the best online teacher or learner right now, but to really care for each other and what lessons are we setting to each other when we're trying this community building. I'll put that in there, and I just want to thank everyone for their time and just for who you all are as humans.
If I can add one thing, Manda. Well, first of all, thank you for facilitating this discussion. I'm going to add just a link to the Ritchie Center virtual programming website. And I think through the sports side of things, there's a lot of great resources here for more so students, but for everyone really, to have nutrition tips, how to stay healthy from your home, how to be involved, and how to stay active. So there's things like like I said, nutrition, at-home workouts, trainers, all that stuff is at this website. And so please check it out.
Hi, so I haven't been on the call. I'm Abigail. I'm one of the C+V graduate fellows. I just wanted to thank everyone for participating and sharing with us today. I'll try to share some of those links that are in the chat on our website, but definitely please email us if you have any ideas, like us on Facebook and on Instagram. So thank you all and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.